Get ready for the best holiday sale of the year. For a limited time, enjoy 50% off annual news subscriptions at inforum.news/gift. That's right, 50% off unlimited access to local news so you can stay informed and connected to your community. It's a gift you'll want to give yourself. This incredible holiday offer ends December 22nd, so don't miss out. Subscribe now at inforum.news/gift.
One of America's most popular cakes was made possible because of a partnership between a Minnesota man and a local Jewish women's club. Hi, this is Tracy Briggs, and welcome to Back Then. Well, here's a little baking trivia for you. What has been the most requested recipe from the nearly 75-year history of the Pillsbury Bake Off? The answer? Tunnel of Fudge Cake. It was the second place winner from 1966, made by a woman from Houston, Texas. The cake was rich, dense, and chocolatey as it formed a fudge center as it baked. Pillsbury shared the recipe back then, and you can actually still find the recipe on Pillsbury's website today. It's a little bit different, but it's basically the same. And with just 5 ingredients, that's the easy part, right? Learning how to bake the cake. The hard part, though, what in the world do you make it in? You see, that woman from Texas made the cake in something called a bundt pan. Many would-be Tunnel of Fudge cake bakers back in 1966 had never heard of that pan. So Pillsbury received more than 200,000 letters asking them where they could find that round pan with the hole in the middle. So Pillsbury pointed their spatulas north to the land of 10,000 lakes. The bundt pan was made by a company called Northland Aluminum Products, later Nordic Ware. And it all began when the head of the company set out to help some Twin Cities women raise a little money for charity by reconnecting with their grandmothers. According to the Minnesota Historical Society, in the late 1940s, 3 women from a Jewish women's organization, the Hadassah Society, wanted to recreate a favorite old cake their ancestors had made back in Europe. The Gugelhupf was a round cake with elegantly fluted sides and a hole in the middle. It was made in a cast iron pan. Some of those pans weighed as much as 15 pounds. The women, Rose Joshua, Fanny Shanfield, and Mary Abrahamson, wanted to make the cakes to sell for their fundraisers for schools and hospitals in Israel. The only problem was the women lacked the pans needed to bake the cakes. Their chapter president had a ceramic mold that she had inherited from her European grandmother, but they wondered if David Dahlquist, a businessman and University of Minnesota chemical engineering graduate, could make it into an aluminum pan for them. In 1946, Dahlquist, just back from his U.S. Navy service in World War II, together with his wife Dottie, his father and brother, started a company in the basement of the couple's Minneapolis home. They had just $500 in their pocket, but they had a dream to manufacture kitchenware. They named their company Northland Aluminum Products, but later changed the name to Nordic Ware, perhaps to reflect the company's biggest sellers, Scandinavian bakeware. But that day in 1949, everything changed when the 3 nice ladies, as Dahlquist later called them, asked him if they could make a pan best known south of Scandinavia, in Germany and Eastern Europe. For the man whose motto was supposedly, if you can sell it, you can usually make it, deciding to try and make the pan for new generations in America was a no-brainer. He revised and improved the original design of that German cake pan for modern American bakers and called the new pan a bundt. The word bundt comes from Bundkuchen, a German word for cake for gathering. According to the Minnesota Historical Society, while Bund, which of course is spelled B-U-N-D, means gathering, Dahlquist added the T at the end of the Bund so he could trademark the name and also avoid being linked to the German-American Bund, which was a Nazi organization. The trademark was issued in 1950. The women from the Hadassah Society in Minnesota were happy with the results of their new pan. They were able to make their grandmother's cakes, and they even started selling the pans. But the cake pans were hardly flying off the department store shelves when they were first sold in the early 50s. That wouldn't happen until that Pillsbury Bake Off recipe, that Tunnel of Fudge cake, in 1966. Then they couldn't keep the pans in stock. And the Dahlquists continued looking for new opportunities for growth. According to the Historical Society, Dottie spent hours in the kitchen developing recipes for the bundt pan. In October of 1969, David pitched the idea for a line of boxed bundt cake mixes to two Pillsbury executives. Dottie baked the cakes for the pitch, which took place on their boat on Lake Superior. The pitch worked. The bundt cake mixes were sold until Pillsbury discontinued them in 1986. Despite Pillsbury discontinuing the bundt cake mixes, the popularity of the cakes has hardly slowed down. There are entire cookbooks dedicated to bundt recipes, and it's no longer just cake. Bundts are now used for savory dishes too, including casseroles and roast chicken. And as the years have rolled along, the shapes of the pans have also evolved to include a variety of fluted designs, along with specialty, seasonal, and holiday-themed pans, which include things like autumn leaves and Christmas trees and stars and many more items like that. In 2002, the bundt cake got another pop culture boost. Remember this one? It was from the hit movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding. How many people now say the word bundt with an exaggerated T thanks to the scene? Do you remember this scene? Lainey Kazan is welcoming her daughter's in-laws to her home, and she is presented with a bundt cake, and she has never heard of it. And she keeps saying a bundt, bunt, and the in-law is saying, no, bundt. And I've heard from people who say they can no longer say the word bundt without thinking of this scene and pronouncing it that way. Well, nearly 75 years ago, the bundt was born with a group of Jewish ladies in the Twin Cities reaching out to a Minnesota man more accustomed to making equipment for krumkaka, kransekaka, and pannekuchen. But the partnership worked. By the time David Dahlquist died in 2005, the bundt pan had become the world's most popular cake pan. Today, more than 75 million of them have been sold. Upon hearing of his death, the national president of Hadassah, June Walker, told the Los Angeles Times that Dahlquist helped them raise the funds they needed to make a difference in the world. She said, with that homey little baking pan, Hadassah women built the most advanced medical center in the Middle East, the Hadassah Medical Center at Ein Kerem. We thank David Dahlquist for his contribution. And one final side note. So we talked about the tunnel of fudge being the most highly requested recipe from the Pillsbury Bake Off, but again, it was only in second place. So what beat the tunnel of fudge that year, 1966? The answer is Golden Gate snack bread, which is a dinner bread made with cheese and dry onion soup mix. I saw the picture. It looks okay. It looks pretty good. Not quite as good as that tunnel of fudge cake, though. And then, of course, this is interesting, too. Another one of today's most requested bake-off dishes is peanut blossoms. You know, those peanut butter cookies with the chocolate star or the Hershey's Kiss in the middle? It's a Christmas staple. But it, too, was just a finalist in the 1957 contest, despite the fact that it was just inducted as one of the 10 favorite Pillsbury Bake-Off recipes. Again, just a finalist. So who or what beat the peanut blossom? It was something called accordion treats. And it's hard to describe what these look like. They sort of look like a biscotti, and they have butter and nuts in them. Again, they look okay, but you really can't beat a peanut butter blossom, right? Thanks for joining me this time. I'm back then. I hope you catch me next time.
Get reliable and accurate local news with Inform.com. Inform.com is your trusted local news source with journalists dedicated to keeping you informed about what's happening in your community. Visit Inform.com now.